Hello, my darling card slingers. Welcome back to Vibing With. It has been absolutely months since I did a Vibing With video. And the simple reason, to be honest with you, is that my New Year's resolution for 2025, sort of in relation to my creative work, was to make videos that were more watchable and get more people engaged in my channel. And you know what? The Vibing With videos, they don't get watched very much.
Don't give yourself away.
And they also mess up the algorithm for the next thing that I put out on YouTube for some reason. The videos that come after a Vibing With don't do too well. So if you like these, please recommend them to your friends. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. And as you can see, I've gone full theatre kid today and I have my lion paws on. And I also have my Aslan pin on that says "Courage, dear heart" on it.
Aslan.
I actually grabbed it off of my pin board today to put it onto this. I pierced my favourite Boy London top so we could have Aslan with us all the way through, because today we are doing the strength card. I am very excited, and before we get into it, may I remind you that all of the Vibing With videos are sponsored by me. I am indeed a professional card slinger, and I have an online store where you can go and pick up a live reading with me and have an hour's worth of live experience having your cards read. I do readings on all different kinds of things: money, spirituality, love and relationships. I can do a reading on your career. I can do a reading on your personal development. Whatever you want, I am here. So if you're in the market for a reading, please consider me. Okay, let's go on and talk about this absolutely glorious card. I'm very excited to be at strength. We will go into the deep dive of the light and the shadow and talk about all the various different things with this card that make it so significant as a member of the major arcana. Grab your notebooks, get ready to do some scribbling if you are in the market for some new card definitions for this one, or indeed if you are learning, welcome. Pull up a chair, dear student. We are going to get into it. Let's vibe with strength. Let's do it. Okay, so my opening thoughts for the strength card. I always start Vibing With episodes with a little opening thoughts. The strength card is an interesting one. Many students find it to be very on the nose, right? They seem to think that the answer to what the strength card is about lies in the name, right? It's literally called the strength card. So we assume that it is about strength. And it is about strength in many ways, but it's also about courage. It's about determination. It's about self-reliance, and it's about self-control. It can be about discipline. It can be about all those things, right? So it is about strength indeed, but there are so many deeper layers to it, and there's so much more nuance to it than that. Usually I select a card that I'm going to hold up that represents strength, and this time I chose to go with a few different cards because I think that the various ways in which the strength card is illustrated say something about the ways in which it's interpreted by readers, okay? So I want to mention that usually the strength card is a representation of a woman and a lion, and they are interacting in some way. Sometimes it's not a lion, sometimes it's a different kind of creature, but it's usually a figure and a creature, and they're interacting, right? So I chose 4 different cards because I want to make a point here, right? So here is the classic Rider-Waite-Smith image that many of you will know and love. And here you see that the maiden, the woman, is kind of opening or controlling in some way the lion's mouth, right? So you see that there is kind of a taming vibe happening here. The lion is being tamed. The lion is being taught how to behave. The lion is being gently but firmly controlled in some way. Okay, that's important. We're going to come to that in the meanings, in the light and shadow of the card. This is my favorite depiction of strength from any card that I own. It is from the Dream Vision Tarot, which is one of my favorite decks. And you see here, there is much more of an alliance happening between the woman and the lion. They are looking in the same direction. They appear to be friends, right? There is no struggle for control. There's no power dynamic here. They're looking off intently into the same direction. So there seems to be sort of a closer, more friendship style bond. Now, there are some cards where the creature and the figure are actually full on fighting. They are fighting for control. And I was trying to think of a deck that I own that sort of establishes this quite well, and I picked Deviant Moon. Now if you look at Deviant Moon, you see it's not a lion, it's kind of a really monstrous looking giant fish of some kind, but you can see that the figure is actually forcing, wrenching quite brutally the creature's mouth open. They are engaged in some kind of a fight for control, a fight for dominance. And there are some decks where it is just the lion alone. There is actually no human figure or other figure of any kind. For example, such as in the Wild Unknown Tarot, you see here just the beautiful image of the lion's face holding the rose. And as a vegan and as an animal rights person, I have to say that the happiest kind of lion is a lion with no human in the picture. So we do love the wild unknown interpretation here. But as you can see, there are lots of different ways that the strength card is depicted. And that goes a lot into what the strength card is really about and what the relationship between the figure and the creature represent. I think for me, my most important opening thought about the strength card is really more of a reminder to you. Both the creature and the figure are to do with you yourself. Most of the time when we see the strength card come up, the lion and the human are both aspects of you. And the strength that is being depicted is an inward strength. It is an inward training. It is a sense of knowing which parts of yourself you want to access at certain times in certain situations and which parts are more important for other situations. It is having the discipline to be able to know that you can behave in a way that really sort of demonstrates your true character and allows you to be able to get where you want to go. It's about integrity, but it's also about strategy. It's about patience and gentleness, but it's also about focus and determination. And it's about making sure that you access different parts of your character and you try on different mentalities in order to see what the best way is to be able to achieve something or the best way that it is to live your life. So that's really what I want to say in the opening thoughts for the strength card. There's a lot to get through. So let's go into the light aspects and the shadow aspects. And that's where I really break down what does the strength card mean when it comes up in a position that is supposed to represent something positive or something more conscious, and then what does it mean when it's doing its dastardly work in the shadow. Okay, let's do this. One of the best things about the strength card is that relationship that is happening between the two figures and how that is being thought of, right? So you can think of, for example, the lion as the primal nature or the raw nature, if you want to, and then the figure as the more ego nature or the kind of more sophisticated nature. You can also think of the lion as brute force, the spirit of overcoming and the pushing through, the power that it takes to actually seize what you want and go for it, right? So it's almost like the full momentum and the full presence and the passion of knowing what you want and taking it. The figure can be more of the sophisticated, strategic, well thought through, patient, time biding aspect of you that knows that there is a right time and a right place to say something or to act on something, right? So usually the strength card is some kind of an interesting dance between different aspects of the self. And it's really about finding that delicate balance and that really interesting harmony that can happen where we decide when we're going to be in our maiden nature and when we're going to be in our lion nature. And as I often say with Vibing With, gender has nothing to do with any of this, okay? All of the archetypes from all of the 78 cards are downloaded into all of us. And you're welcome to think about them in any way that it makes sense for you on your gender journey and the way that you perceive things and the deck that you're using. I'm just saying woman and lion because that's usually what's happening, right? But as I've even demonstrated with some of the cards that I've shown you, it can be different. It can really be changed up quite a bit of the time. So one of the really positive aspects of the strength card then is discernment. It's discerning when you're going to behave in a certain way or when you're going to think in a certain way with a certain mentality and when you're going to move into another state of being where you're going to sort of delicately change up your behavior or your strategy so that it's working for you in the situation in which you find yourself. It can be really about the wisdom that it takes to understand how you want to behave and how you want to deal with a specific dilemma that is coming up. Strength can be about the dance between instinct and intellect. It can even be about the dance between your light nature and your shadow nature. It really depends the context in which the card has come up and the position that it has come into. The strength card can have a lot to do with endurance and control. So if you're going through something that feels like it's got a lot of moving parts, it's been going on for quite a while, it's frustrating you, it's something that you've been having to deal with and show resilience with for a while, the strength card can really affirm for you that you are showing that resilience and that it's really important to carry on doing so. The control aspect of strength, which is demonstrated more in some illustrations than in others, is really about making sure that you don't lose your head, you don't lose your cool, and you don't lose your sense sense of what is right and how you want to behave in a scenario. The strength in the strength card denotes the strength of self-discipline and the strength of self-knowledge. It's really about the strength to be able to know that even if all around you is chaos and even if other people are behaving quite off key, you are still going to remain with your pure and sure sense of what is appropriate and what is right for you, what makes sense for you, and what is honest for you in your heart. So it's a card that's got a lot to do with integrity and, like I said, a lot to do with self-control and self-discipline. It is a demonstration of your ability to be able to live life in a way that is honest for you, even if you feel like just like letting the lion off the leash completely and tearing everything to bits. Or even if you feel too scared to ever let your inner lion out at all, and you're scared to go with it and you're scared to make use of it, right? It's really about situations where you have to keep steadfast with yourself. There's a steadfastness in the strength card, and that's what attracts a lot of people to it. It's about the dance of discipline that goes on internally and knowing all the different aspects of yourself. If we think of the figure and the creature as different aspects of ourselves, that can go into so many different directions. It can be about the wounded part of ourself versus, I don't know, the very sort of spiritually aligned and healed part of ourself. It can be about the part of ourself that wants to give into our base instincts and our base urges versus the higher self, right? The higher knowing and the sense that there is a different way to act, which is more in alignment with how we really feel and how we really want to live, right? The lion can be a representation of our bravery and our willingness to act in a way that will put other people's noses out of joint, but that we know to be the right thing to do, versus the figure can sometimes be a representation of like our desire to just fit in and just play the small game and just, you know, be polite to everybody and fade into the background. So the figure and the creature are never just in these static positions of positive and negative. Again, it depends on the context of the card position. It depends on what your spread is actually about. One of the most valuable things about the Rider-Waite depiction of strength is that aspect of taming. Very often, one of the positives of strength can be around taming your emotional responses, taming your reactivity, deciding that actually I'm not just going to go with my first feeling, and I'm not always going to trust my very strong emotions as being indicative of the truth and as being good advisors for what I should do. So strength can be about, like, you know, calming your own water, turning the heat down, right? Letting the temperature lower so you can really move into your spiritual wisdom and move into your broader and more sort of stable sense of self, instead of just going with the first thing that you think and like reacting on the head of a pin. So strength can really be about knowing that you have the strength to be able to control those baser urges or those more destructive urges. And that can be a really positive thing about this card. Strength is a very good depiction of gentle confidence. It's a very good depiction of keeping your head. It's a very good depiction of you being in a position where it's very important for you to be able to stay cool, stay calm, stay fucking collected. And so I often use the strength card when I'm doing magic and ritual that's around being able to really hold fast to my beliefs and to what I want to do. But I also use the strength card when I need to calm down, when I need to lower my own temperature, and I really need to think about the longer term game plan and the more long-term aims that I have, instead of getting caught up in the petty dramas that might be going on in the present moment that are distracting me from the bigger aim, and they're distracting me from being in true alignment with myself. So the strength card is really good for somebody like me who is a recovering rage addict, who really needs to tame those aspects of myself that might end up, you know, burning the whole house down, as it were.
Off with their heads!
The strength card can be about controlled power. It can be about knowing that if you hold firm and you hold your mud, then the victory is in your hands. That is something that you also hold, right? So it's a reminder to you to check your behavior, check your mindset, and go with what you know is going to keep you sturdy, and it's going to give you a nice firm foundation, and it's not going to allow you to go sort of like rattling off into extremes and into things that could be dangerous for you or unhealthy for you. Things like behavior that you will later regret, words that you didn't mean to say, or addictions that you never wanted to go back to. So strength can really grab you, and it can sort of put you to the mast of your ship again and say, hey, focus, eyes forward. This is what you know that you want to do. These other things are distractions, or they are dangers to you. They are threats to what the actual real aim is. So it's a little sobering when you get the strength card. It sobers you up, and it reminds you to get back into the driver's seat and not to be distracted by things that will pull you off course. So a lot of the strength is inner strength. A lot of the power is that calm knowing inside that, like, if I stick to this behavior and if I follow this line, then that is what I'm going to get at the end. Whereas if I go off and I do all these other things that don't reflect me and that aren't good for me, Goddess only knows what the outcome will be. So I really need to, like, you know, stay focused on what is really the important thing and stay focused on the next right action. It's very good for people that catastrophize. I think this card is very good for people that have a lot of anxiety. And like I said, it's very good for people that are hyperreactive and need to remember that they don't have to do that. They can do things in a much more considered and much more discerning way. And then at the end, they can be proud of themselves for doing it that way. The strength card can be very much about your courage and your confidence. When you are looking admiringly at the lion, or you are standing in alliance with the lion, it means that you are remembering everything of which you are capable. And sometimes the strength card can come up when we really need to have the strength of belief in ourselves. We need to have faith in what it is that we're doing. We need to admire the strength that we've shown through the adversities that have come up so far in life. And I think it's therefore very poetic that the strength card comes right after the chariot, because we had to exhibit strength to go into the quest and the ambition of the chariot. And then as we move forward into strength, it's like we give ourselves a chance to stop on the path of life and congratulate ourselves for being brave, for showing the courage to stick with what it is that we wanted to do, and for being bold enough to be able to move ahead with our creative projects, with seeking visibility for our work, with saying the honest thing, with doing the right thing. Strength sometimes can just be this moment of congratulations to oneself that we were able to stay high-powered in times of difficulty and remain resilient even when we were stressed out.
The show goes on!
Very often the strength card represents a bond between parts of the self, and therefore what it can really represent is an agreement with and a vow with yourself, okay? It's a commitment that you have to be with yourself, to listen to yourself, to pay attention to what it is that is really going on inside your deep instinct, and to work with that. Sometimes when strength comes up in a reading for me, it's really about the bond that I want to re-establish between my ego self and my spiritual self, right? So it's really about that dance between ego and spirit. And I want to remind myself that actually when I'm in the midst of a real ego struggle and I'm thinking about how I'm perceived and how I want to be perceived and what this means about me and what this means about other people in relation to me, knowing that I have that bond between lion and woman, for me is almost like that feeling of, you know what, listen to your higher self, go to that part of your nature that is unobstructed by all these petty things that you've been taught by this very sick society to care about, right? You don't care about those things. They're not as important as what would be the action that represents integrity and the words and behaviors that represent the genuine version of you that's been unencumbered by all this other crap that you know deep down is petty, Kellyanne. So stop going back to it and really lean into yourself. Go back into your strong foundation. Talk to your gods. Practice witchcraft. Engage in art, right? Tell the people you love that you love them, right? Make the right choices. Do the right thing for yourself. Again, it's a sobriety, an emotional sobriety kind of card when it comes up in a positive position in a tarot reading. Very often when strength comes up, I just think about how I'm with myself, and whatever challenges are coming my way, I know I can deal with them. I know I can really make a go of it, and I can move towards victory in a way that isn't destructive for myself or others, but is honest, right? It doesn't require me to have to hide or pretend or contort myself into a shape that doesn't represent me. All right, let's talk about the shadows of the strength card, my darlings. One of the major shadows that is so interesting when it comes to the strength card is that the lion that is very often depicted in the strength card turns from being a symbol of perhaps your instinct or your passion, your power, your untamed self, your wild nature. It goes from being that into being something a a lot more difficult, right?
Difficult, lemon difficult. That is what it will be.
Something like your impotence and your fear and your gutlessness and your cowardice, or alternatively it can be your violence, your reactivity, the unfair parts of your nature, the power hungry aspects of you. So the lion turns from being a symbol of something that is useful and something admirable into being a symbol of either psycho-spiritual impotence or psycho-spiritual dominance, right? One or the other of those things is happening. So whenever the strength card appears in shadow, it can be a representation that you have not done enough for yourself, that you have backed out of doing the brave thing, that you have succumbed to your cowardice, or you have succumbed to your social politeness too much. You have cut corners around your own boundaries. You have said yes to things you wanted to say no to. You have not been brave enough to go towards your dreams and stand your ground or do what it is you wanted to do. But the strength card can also mean that you have pushed forcefully and domineeringly for what you wanted. You have been selfish. You have been unable to tame the instinct that you have, that you want to eat what you want and you want to get it right now, and everything's got to be on your terms, right?
I want one. I want a golden goose.
So it's either an underactive bravery or an overactive bravery. Does this make sense? So it can really be just like too little or too large of a dose of what strength is all about. Strength, when we see it in a conscious position, is self-control. It's self-discipline. It's courage. It's boldness. It's inner knowing. And it's deciding when is the right time to do the right thing and what is the right thing. Strength in shadow is any kind of failure to do that, or any kind of fear that you won't be able to do that. It's undershooting or overshooting for being who you are and getting what you want. Strength in shadow can often denote a lack of discipline, right? It's us not doing what we said we were going to do. It's us not behaving in the way that we know is correct and that we know is aligned with our true self. It can be a sense of laziness or a sense that everything is futile, and so there's no point going through the endurance and the persistence of carrying on and wanting to get over the finish line. Strength in a shadow position can often be about that sense of weakness, that sense of inability. It can be a lack of self-confidence as well. So that's a big thing that comes up with the strength card. And for sure, of course, it can be cowardice. It can be this feeling that you are not going to be able to hit your mark and get what you're aiming for because you are too scared to come out and take that chance. You're too scared to take the risk. Instead, you're going to keep yourself very buttoned up and very shaved down into a polite shape that does not reflect the passion that you feel or the beliefs that you have. And so you're really living this life of silence and politeness and moving in the way that others expect you to, or not coming out and showing your art or showing yourself or taking those daring risks that allow you to live life on your terms and in that bold, strong way. Sometimes when the strength card comes up in a more shadowy or difficult position, it can be about that fight that we're having within ourselves, the confusion that comes when we don't know whether to go for what we want, whether to be honest, whether to stand up and say something, whether it's the right time, whether or not it will be destructive, whether or not it will lose us access to friends or opportunities. So there is a struggle going on. There's an internal battle. There's an argument inwardly. And sometimes strength can come up in a reading just at that moment where we're just kind of like, I'm definitely having an argument with myself about what is the right thing here. And I'm definitely trying to sort of muddle through that. And very often when strength comes up in that kind of shadow position, it is telling us that we need to go back to our spiritual roots. We need to open ourselves up as a channel for higher guidance. Maybe we also need outside advice from people who know us and love us and want the best for us. But we need to be willing to take advice that might come in the form of criticism, that might ask us to ask ourselves questions about what we are doing and what we are not doing and whether or not that is right. So we have to lower our defenses. And sometimes when strength comes up in a shadowy mode of being, it can represent that we are being very defensive or very reactive. We are like a creature with a paw wound, right? You know, our paws are wounded and we're like just lashing out and biting and scratching. But really, if we would allow somebody to help us, we could get that wound healed and we could move bravely forward on the journey, both inwardly and outwardly in alignment with ourselves. But we have to be willing to take some of those harder knocks of critiques And we have to be willing to do the self-examination. Very often, when the maiden and the lion come up in a reading, that is the self-examination. That is looking at what is within us that might be wounded, that might feel like, I want to protect my ego, I want to protect my position in this, I'm not listening to anything else, or I'm not being willing to risk anything or own up to anything. And so it's that static side of us that is locked in a paralysis of sorts, psycho-spiritually, right? And it's really being able to be honest about that. So the strength card does demand, again, emotional sobriety and some honesty around how we have been behaving. And sometimes, the need to make a few apologies along the way for how we've been behaving as well.
I'm really, really sorry. I apologize unreservedly.
You take it back?
I do. I offer a complete and utter retraction. The imputation was totally without basis in fact and was in no way fair comment and was motivated purely by malice.
I know I made an apology recently. I despised it with every fibre of my being. No, it's fine. I needed to make the apology. I did make the apology. It was gracefully accepted. By the very man editing this video, actually, I have to say, thank you, Danny. Thank you so much. You legend. Get on with editing. Get on with editing. Hurry up.
Come on, people, let's get going here. I've got a to-do list here that's longer than a fucking Leonard Cohen song.
The strength card can be very territorial. It can be about being territorial about one's beliefs and one's needs, etc. It can be about strong boundaries, and it can be about saying things strongly. When it comes up in a shadow position, it can be about giving territory away. It can be about not manning your defenses. It can be about weak boundaries. It can be about letting people trample over you, talk over you, domineer over you. And it's not like the card is criticizing you for that. It can very often come from deep wounds and sometimes unpleasant situations that tarot will remind you to try to get yourself out of, right? So it's not always the case that tarot gives you the strength card as a super strong critique of your weakness and your cowardice, right? It's not a card that is bullying you. But it might be a card that's asking you to take hold of your right to defend yourself, to defend your safety, to defend your true nature, right? To be able to live the life that feels correct for you instead of always kowtowing and bowing down and domineering and making sacrifices, being truly self-sacrificial so somebody else can always get what they want. So sometimes it's about being domineered over, thinking that you're showing strength for playing the long game and letting people take strips off of you here and there. But actually the strength card can come up in just that kind of emergency situation where that shit needs to stop and you need to put yourself back in the driver's seat of your life and stop being somebody else's passenger, right? So sometimes the strength card can be very, very medicinal. It can force you to take very quick, very strong medication in your own defense. When the strength card comes up in shadow, it can be a fear of the parts of your nature that you feel are going to rock the boat, right? Very often the taming that is happening in the strength card is an over-taming, right? It is a vicious containing of the parts of you that you feel might upset other people, might earn you rejection from a specific group, or might cause people to ask questions about what is going on with you. So we tame those aspects of ourselves that feel wild, that feel unsafe, that feel hard to handle, or that feel like they might offend other people. And in doing so, we quietly, spiritually die. We give up. We give in. We put the lion self in a teeny tiny little box. And every time it growls, we bash the top of the box and say, shut up. No one can know you're in there. Nobody can know. So sometimes the shadow of the strength card is about how we have overtamed. We have put that lion self in bondage. And so it can be quite emotional when it comes up in a position that is asking us to please free your animal nature, free your raw, unwilded self inside. Don't let the world tell you that you can't also be those things. Don't fall in love with or spend time with people who repeatedly need you to pretend that there isn't a lion inside you. So yeah, it can very much be that. It can very much be that, just letting you know. Honestly, sometimes when strength comes up, it just means that we are vulnerable to forces that may try to tame and manipulate us. It might mean that we are vulnerable to being domineered over. We are maybe incorrigible in terms of what we're willing to believe. Maybe we have believed stories that are kind of half-baked, or we've run with a narrative that doesn't really make sense because the scenario felt overwhelming, or the other person seemed to have more power in the situation situation. So we just went with it. And sometimes the strength card comes up to tell us to pull over to the side of the road and reestablish what the fuck is going on, because we have lost our own sense of deep instinct around what is right and what it is that we really believe. Okay. So it's about not being led along. It's about not being always having our mouths controlled by other people or by the wider situation, but actually going back to being unbroken, untamed, and willing to tap into what is important for us and what feels right for us. Darlings, I have absolutely loved putting my little lion paws on today and giving you my perception of the strength card and the many different incredible things that it has to say about cowardice, about fear, about lack of connection to self, and also about courage, about potency, and about alignment with self. It's such an interesting card. It's been really powerful to be able to go through some of these thoughts with you. Please let me know down below, what is your perception of the strength card and what has been your relationship with it? Is there anything from this video that you are now going to put into your collection of interpretations? And as always with the vibing with videos, there's never any way for me to be able to pack in even everything that I think about a card, okay? So whenever I'm talking about a card, there's always a limited amount of things that I can say. I'm just trying to hit the main points. So if you have anything that's got running through your mind that I didn't say about this card that you want to share in the comments below, please share your knowledge, share your wisdom with us. Don't forget that you can go ahead and book a reading at my online store. I'm always available. I do live hour-long tarot experiences that are intended to be paradigm shifting, life-changing, comforting, healing, empowering, and all the rest of it. This video has been for my darling Rebecca, who has a strength tattoo, and for all the other darlings who have strength tattoos. Okay, I know it's a popular one for the tattoo crowd. So if you also have a strength tattoo, get at me down below and let me know. We love a strength tattoo. And if you have tarot tattoos in general, let me know what they are. Surprisingly, I do not have any tarot tattoos yet, which is actually cray-cray, but we will be getting there. Okay, I have some ideas in mind. I think I want death and the sun on the same arm. And I've been saying that for quite a few years now, but I just keep spending my money on other stuff. But yeah, tarot tattoos cometh on my personal skin. I have prime real estate left and I will be filling it with tarot tattoos. Darlings, thank you so much for being here. This has been Vibing With. So much love. Keep card slinging and blessed be.
To waste my